I just don't like you. Well, then we have found something we have in common.
What is up, Hardcore Nation? It's Hardcore Christopher here, and this comes from a channel called I hope I'm well, first a little background. Kaiser the Redbeard has been watching my videos, and he has been commenting on them. So I thought I would do him a solid and react to one of his videos, and I'm reacting to serial killers that were never caught. So I hope he enjoys. I hope he enjoys this, and I may consider subscribing. But that is to be seen. So let's get right into this, shall we?
Hey, it's Kaiser and Brianna Bones with Kaiser the Redbeard. I want to send a special shout out to all you out there that are subscribed, and I thank you for spending a part of your day to be here. And if you're not part of that community yet, click that little red subscribe button. It's free, and you'll never miss an episode.
As a warning, this content might be considered.
This video discussion is advised. Warning does not concern me. I've seen a lot worse. Wait. It's not starting.
Well, hello, look at all of you. How fun!
Disturbing to some viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. When you think about serial killers who were never caught, you probably think of Jack the Ripper.
I actually have a theory on Jack the Ripper, but that'll wait. Because I don't know if they're going to go into Jack the Ripper yet.
As scientific advances are made in forensic science, individuals like Jack the Ripper will not get away with multiple unsolved murders in the future. Today, we will take a look at serial killers who were never caught.
But here's the problem. As much as science is advancing, the people that did these atrocious crimes are, I'm pretty sure they're dead. So hopefully they will get closure, but I do have a theory on who Jack the Ripper is, and I'll get into that. I'll get into that sometime.
Number 5.
The Redhead Murderer or Bible Belt Strangler. The Redhead Murderers pertain to a string of unsolved murders by a man credited with killing at least 6 different redheaded women in the United States somewhere between October 1978 and 1992.
I can definitely tell he's done his research.
These killings appear to have been done by an unknown male serial killer. The murders that are thought to be related occurred in the states of Tennessee, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia.
The killings could possibly have carried on up until 1992. The targets, some continuing to be unknown for several years, ended up being, in most cases, females with reddish-colored hair whose bodies were abandoned alongside major highways in the United States. Authorities assume that the ladies had been most probably hitchhiking or perhaps participating in prostitution. What's interesting about this case is that recently, in 2018, a number of high school students in Tennessee examined the killings.
But how would the Redhead Murderer know that his victims were... were in prostitution or hitchhiking.
Actually, a quality insurance company. Let's get out of here. 5 more minutes. My skunk is almost done. For a great low rate, for nearly 60 years of quality coverage.
Unless the 6 murders he did were not his first.
So the original prosecutor
With the direction of their instructor and nicknamed the killer the Bible Belt Strangler. The students developed a profile of the killer and sent it to a Federal Bureau of Investigation's profiler. In this profile, the students characterized the man as a white man conceived around 1932 and 1962 who was a trucker operating out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and who visited Highway I-40. Furthermore, the group stated his height appeared to be between 5'8" and 6'2". And the man was very likely 180 to 270 pounds. It is postulated that the killer continues to still be living and located in the East Tennessee area.
Number 4. The Alphabet.
That is, if he's still alive. Not saying that he's not. However, I find it incredibly doubtful that after all this time that someone would be alive.
Prove to me that she's wrong.
From 1962, I mean.
Did you know Pop's dad?
The Alphabet Murders are an unsolved series of killings that happened around 1971 and 1973 in Rochester, New York. These killings had several similarities. The victims' names were alliterative: Carmen Colon, Wanda Walkowitz, and Michelle Meinza. Their bodies were discarded in towns or villages beginning with the same letter as the victims' initials.
However, the authorities determined that this had been a coincidence. Also, all 3 girls had been strangled. Detectives circulated composite sketchings of the person spotted with Michelle Meinza and set up a telephone hotline solely committed towards the manhunt for the perpetrator. The detectives highly assumed the culprit had committed every one of the murders. While these attempts ended in several phone calls from the general community, no legitimate suspect ended up being found. All 3 girls are laid to rest in Rochester's Holy Sepulchre Cemetery.
Investigators have moved
Why strangulation? There we go. That is one of the slowest forms of death. Being strangled, I mean. I don't know from personal experience, but why?
Each target ended up being picked out as a consequence of the double initials of their name is incredibly improbable. The reason being for a culprit to pre-select his targets for such a factor would probably incorporate their following their target across a prolonged length of time, which means that it would raise the potential likelihood of their becoming discovered.
Additionally, a number of detectives imagine that even though the killings of Walkowitz and Meinza could have been entirely committed by the very same person that had lured all the young ladies to their demise, the all-around modus operandi of the killing of Carmen Colon highly suggests that her killing had been committed by someone well-known and perhaps related to her.
And just to back up to like the beginning, they said that when you think of like serial killers that were never caught, Jack the Ripper but, you know,
Okay. That's fine. You want to pretend this doesn't have to do with the case? Okay, fine.
you know, there are also, like,
She got home, and I see you.
well,
I see you, Danny. I see what's going on with
the
you.
aforementioned
Okay. Just don't take it
Jack
out
the
on her
Ripper. The Zodiac Killer was never caught, along with...
Detective Reagan, got a message you wanted to talk to me.
Yeah, phone call would have worked.
Oh,
I had a meeting nearby. I thought I'd drop by in person.
Appreciate it. Can we come over here?
along with the original Night Stalker.
Yeah, same old same.
Is that good or bad?
Compared with someone not known to her who had kidnapped her throughout force.
John Russell.
Number 3.
You know I can't discuss
The Doodler.
Not unless he's a threat to himself.
The Doodler is an unidentified serial killer considered...
What are with these names? I mean, the Redhead
Give me
Murderer.
the runaround. I'm running into a brick wall here. Can't you give me something?
I mean, I've only seen him twice.
You only saw me twice, so I know you're a quick study. Doc, I promise you're on the same side here.
He's still operating as if he's in the middle
The
of
Redhead Murderer.
Instead of back home where it's
The
safe.
Doodler.
Extreme vigilance, paranoia, and all ways post-traumatic stress disorder can manifest.
Weird.
You know, I hate
Why
that
give
word.
these people
I
then
feel like we're talking about a damn
people
vending
these
machine.
names?
The reason for approximately 16 killings and 3 attacks upon men in San Francisco, California, around January 1974 and September 1975. The moniker was given on account of the perpetrator's practice of drawing his subjects just prior to their erotic activities and slayings by stabbing. The perpetrator found his targets of homosexuals at bars and dining establishments.
In 1975, authorities searched the suspect based on one of the victim's descriptions of the man. Law enforcement officials outlined him as a 19 to 25-year-old, at the time, black, weighing about 6 feet tall. The killings additionally occurred during a period where homosexuality was still stigmatized. Therefore, the 3 survivors of his assault would not bear witness to him for concern with becoming outed as gay.
That makes sense.
All the survivors was well known as a popular San Francisco politician. One more was an international diplomat, and the third was a well-known entertainer.
Law enforcement released an audio recording of an anonymous 911 telephone call made in 1974 immediately after somebody noticed the first victim's body on the beach. Authorities had additionally been looking for a therapist from the East Bay whose surname was Priest and who reported that a young black male admitted to all the killings during the course of the professional therapy treatments in the mid-70s. The therapist additionally asserted that his client was dealing with his own homosexual desires and might have looked to killing as a possible endeavor to exorcise his inner demons.
But that makes no sense.
Also, as a reminder, go to KaiserTheRedbeard.com and check out the merchandise in the store. Number 2.
The Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is the pseudonym of a serial killer in Northern California around the later part of the 1960s towards the early 1970s. His personal identity continues to be unidentified. The killer started the identity using a string of taunting letters as well as cards mailed around the San Francisco Bay Area newspapers. These letters consisted of 4 cryptograms, or alternatively ciphers. Of those,
So they do mention the Zodiac Killer.
I kissed my husband goodbye and a stranger came in. How so? He's been obsessed with
I think the Zodiac Killer was very smart, but I think every single person on, so far, I think every single person so far that they've talked about is more than likely dead.
nearly one has been definitely solved.
The Zodiac murdered 5 identified victims in Napa County in San Francisco between December 1968 and October 1969. He stated to have murdered 37 victims. The Zodiac had been several killings before one of his victims endured, regardless of getting shot in the face, neck, and chest. The survivor described his attacker as a 26 to 30-year-old, 195 to 200-pound, 5'8", white male with short, light brown curly hair. While most killers try to steer clear of the law enforcement and newspapers, notice the self-proclaimed Zodiac ended up being. He sent dozens of letters to newspapers that came with ciphers or coded messages.
After the botched killing,
It honestly sounds like to me that the Zodiac was a narcissist.
Zodiac Killer were received at newspapers taking credit for the shootings in a 408-symbol cryptogram, which the killer claimed contained his identity. The killer demanded they be printed on the paper's front page, or he could cruise around all weekend killing lone people in the night, then move on to kill again, until I end up with a dozen people over the weekend. The Zodiac's message was like, I like killing people because it is so much fun, and it is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill something. Gives me the most thrilling experience than it ever will be than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of that is when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and then I have killed will become my slaves.
Okay. There is a lot of spelling errors.
I will not give you my name because you will not try to slow me down or stop collecting of my slaves for my afterlife.
The last 18 letters have not been determined, and the message is littered with spelling and grammar errors. After a few more killings, the Zodiac sent more letters and a card with another cryptogram compromising 340 characters. The 340-character cipher to this day has not been decoded. Several potential answers have actually been suggested, however, none have been maintained as conclusive.
The Zodiac would go on to sign his letters with an almost crosshair-like symbol when he mailed the newspapers. He actually wanted to see people wearing some nice Zodiac buttons, referring to the crosshair-like symbol that he went by. He continued to kill, abduct, and make claims to newspapers, editors, victims' family members, etc. In April 2004, the authorities labeled the case inactive, mentioning caseload strain and assets requirements, basically shutting the case. However, in May 2018, the Vallejo Police Department revealed their intent to try and gather the Zodiac Killer's DNA from the back of the stamps that he applied to the letters throughout his communication. As of this recording, no results have been reported.
There seems to be about 20 possible suspects, at least for the Zodiac Killer to date. Possibly the most infamous would be Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski, otherwise known as the Untitled, had been considered for potential links to the Zodiac Killer back in 1996. Kaczynski was employed in the north of California during the time of the Zodiac killings, had a curiosity about cryptography, as well as threatened newspapers into distributing his communications. However, Kaczynski ended up being eliminated according to fingerprints, as well as handwriting comparison.
And number 1, Jack the Ripper.
Okay.
Plus, now all patients can get 20% off their treatment plan. Find every reason to smile every day at Aspen Dental. Call 1-800-ASPEN Dental or book today at
Before they talk about Jack the Ripper, I want to bring your guys' attention to
Most have high blood pressure. They may not be able to take just anything for pain. That's why doctors recommend Tylenol. It won't raise blood pressure. Relief or Motrin sometimes can. For trusted relief, trust Tylenol.
At Chewy, we know walks are made better with our furry friends, and we're here to make those walks easy. From tasty treats on the go to toys that keep them moving. Get everything they need, even prescriptions, delivered right to your door. Get fast, free 1 to 2 day shipping. Visit Chewy.com today.
I feel so good. Ultra soft and strong is made using an energy-efficient process. 3 trees are
I think it was like
each one used.
Murder Hotel.
Premium comfort made sustainable. Oh, wowzers! What a special family. Special like my fun stripes.
H.H. Holmes. Okay. So,
That Parker promo saved me so much in my insurance. Brought you a little something special.
Parker, State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
Good man.
okay.
You want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Come on, pop
We
back
live
up.
in a world of fees. Airlines, hotels, food delivery,
Okay.
and especially car dealers all charge excessive last-minute fees. When you want something bad,
H.H. Holmes.
it feels like your only choice is to pay up. But what if you had a choice to take a stand instead? At Carvana, we believe in treating you better.
Now,
With zero hidden fees, you can drive off without feeling ripped off.
it is...
That's what it means to live fearlessly.
Oh, it was known as the Murder Castle. Okay. So, Jack the Ripper, even a descendant of H.H. Holmes, believes that H.H. Holmes was Jack the Ripper. Now, H.H. Holmes was born on May 16th, 1861, and died May 7th, 1896. So, keep that in mind as we listen.
Jack the Ripper was an unidentified serial killer active around the destitute Whitechapel area of London in 1888. Throughout the criminal case records and contemporary journalism.
Okay.
Super empty.
So, 1888. Jack the Ripper was a serial killer in England. And as you can see by this Wikipedia, his span of crimes was from 1891 to 1894. So it's entirely possible that H.H. Holmes could have gone to England and killed there. Now, where this gets interesting is that Jack the Ripper, well, is that H.H. Holmes has a has a surgeon background. So, it's entirely possible that H.H. Holmes is Jack the Ripper, in my opinion.
What are you gonna do? She's a grieving mother.
They see things differently.
Well, let's continue.
The killer was actually known as the Whitechapel Murderer and the Leather Apron. The identity of Jack the Ripper started in correspondence composed by somebody proclaiming to be the murderer, which had been spread in the media. The letter is generally commonly thought to have been a hoax and may also happen to be penned by reporters in an effort to increase the desire for the tale and improve their newspaper's publication.
Jack the Ripper was never caught, so it's hard to know how many victims he had. Assaults attributed toward Jack the Ripper for the most part concerned female prostitutes who resided and worked in the slums of the which throats had been slashed right before abdominal mutilations, removing internal organs from not less than 3 of the targets, resulting in suggestions that the killer possessed a certain amount of biological or medical understanding.
The Whitechapel murder files contains
like a surgeon.
But most experts agree there are a canonical 5 victims. The canonical 5 Ripper victims are Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly.
Each one of the canonical 5 murders has been perpetrated at night, during or near a weekend, frequently at the end of a month or a week or so after. The mutilations grew to be so progressively extreme as a series of killings continued, including Stride, which might have been disrupted.
Nichols was not missing any kind of bodily organs. Chapman's womb, as well as components of her bladder and also vagina, had been taken. Eddowes had her womb and left kidney extracted along with her face maimed. Kelly's figure was thoroughly eviscerated along with her face gashed in all directions and the tissues of her throat being cut to the bone, and the heart was missing.
Mary Jane Kelly is usually regarded as being the Ripper's last casualty, as well as being believed that the criminal activity concluded as a result of the culprit's demise, incarceration, institutionalization, or immigration. The majority of the City of London police files associated with their research into the Whitechapel killings happened to be destroyed in the Blitz. However, police officers carried out inquiries throughout Whitechapel. Forensic material was gathered and analyzed. Suspects have been determined, followed, and sometimes inspected considerably more closely or done away with entirely from the investigation. At least 2,000 individuals have been questioned. In excess of 300 individuals were investigated, and 80 people ended up being taken into custody.
Butchers, slaughterers, surgeons, and physicians were suspected because of the manner of the mutilations. Following the murders of the Stride and Eddowes, a reward of £500 for the arrest of the Ripper was offered.
Which serial killer was your favorite? Comment down below.
And let us know who didn't make the list.
As always, thanks for taking the time spending with us here today.
Thanks. Just glad everyone could be there. Especially you.
And I hope
Daddy's been working around the clock.
you all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Oh, and this also concludes the reaction, obviously. And I'm Hardcore Christopher. Keep it hardcore, everyone.
Trying to find